In this video, I'm going to show you the easiest and fastest way to replace the oil pan gasket and the oil pickup tube O-ring on a 6.2 liter GM engine. And the best part is, we're not even going to have to remove the differential. Now before we get started, I want to go ahead and encourage everyone to go ahead and look in the video description for a list of all the different parts you're going to need to do this job, because you are going to also need like a oil cooler gasket. You might want a little deflector. So go ahead and check out that description. Also, if you are here just because you have a leaking oil pan gasket and you came here just to fix that, I want to tell you right now, while you're in there, replace the O-ring on your oil pickup tube. Start by raising and safely supporting your vehicle and then draining the oil. Next, we're going to remove the skid plate in the very front of the vehicle. These are 15mm bolts. Next, you're going to remove this subframe crossmember. There are 4 bolts. They are 18mm. Put a wrench on the back and take the nut off from the front. Get out of there. Next, we need to remove this front drive shaft from the differential. I'm just going to go ahead and mark this so that I can put it back together the way it was when I took it apart. By lowering that down, it's going to give you better access to the oil cooler lines and allow this differential, when we lower it, to have more play. Now, I said that we're not going to remove the differential, and I'm not lying about that. We're not removing it, but we will need to drop it down. At the front of the differential now, you'll see right up here, right there, is a little vent, and we just need to pull that loose. And I'm not sure if I can get it while I have a flashlight up there, but oh yeah, real easy to pull loose. In fact, mine's a little cracked. On the back side of this cross member is the power steering rack. We need to drop it down. So there's a bolt that's right inside this little cutout in it. We're going to remove that one. Then there's an 18mm directly above that one, right up there. Switching to a 24mm, we're going to remove these bolts next. We need to remove just the passenger side CV axle. These are 15mm bolts. I'm going to support the pumpkin with a transmission jack. If you don't have a transmission jack, you can get by with a regular jack. I've done that many times. Okay, to drop down this differential, there are 4 bolts. The 2 over on the pumpkin side are 18mm, and then the 2 over here are 21mm. Got 3 of them out. We're going to take the last one out right now. And Hey, sorry to interrupt. It takes me a lot of time to make a video like this. If it's helping you, would you mind helping me by just taking like 5 seconds and clicking that subscribe button? I appreciate you. Okay, up here we have a couple transmission cooler lines. Okay, I think I've got these unhooked, so that'll allow that to fall down. There's an electrical harness attached up there too. I was able to pop off that electrical connector just using one of these little tools. Just pried it right off. There are two 10mm bolts on these oil cooler lines that you need to remove to be able to get that off the oil pan. At the front of the motor is a black piece of plastic that's holding a electrical harness on. There is a bolt on the side of it. Let's see, right up here on the side. You're going to remove that, and then you'll be able to scoot this whole thing sideways and then out. Right behind where your oil filter goes, you'll see a little piece of black plastic right there. You have to take that bolt out, that sideways, holding that black plastic on, to be able to get to that top oil pan bolt up there. Now I'm going to remove these bottom two bell housing bolts. Now we're going to start removing all the bolts for the oil pan. Most of these are going to be 10mm. I'm just going to work my way around and see if there's anything else that needs to be taken off. There we go. There we go. To remove this pickup tube, we've got two 13mm bolts that, let's see, we got one right here and another one right up there. And that'll get the end of it loose. Then we'll move over to where the front of the motor is, right up here where it connects to the oil pump. And there's a 10mm bolt to remove up there. So I can tell just by looking at the old O-ring that it is definitely bad. You can see that it's no longer very pliable, kind of lost its shape, and I don't know if it shows up good on camera, but the edges of it are flattened. If you look at the brand new O-ring right next to it, you will see that this one is stretched out, and then where this one is round, this one looks square, and it wasn't always that way. It used to be rounded. So that's definitely causing my low oil pressure issues in this truck. I'm gonna go ahead, clean up all these parts real good, and I'm also going to clean up this gasket mating surface, and then I'll come back to you after I get everything nice and clean. I don't have my parts washer set up, so I'll probably use some brake clean and some rags and things like that to get the job done. There are two little rivets holding this old gasket on to the oil pan. They are no longer needed. You can just kind of break them off like so, and then pull them out. Don't forget to also clean the mating surface on the bottom of the engine, as well, if equipped, as the oil cooler line where it connects. One last thing I wanted to mention is make sure this oil screen is clean as well, because if that's blocked up, you're not going to have any oil pressure. So I went ahead and got this all cleaned up. There was a lot of sludge in this oil pan, and I found that tends to be the case with a whole lot of these LS engines. The oil change interval from GM, I don't remember what it was originally, but it was like every 7,500 miles or 10,000 miles once a year, and that's just too long, and GM should have known better. Anyway, I wanted to mention, if you happen to be working on an early 5.3 liter engine, you may find that you don't see this piece right there. That's a deflector shield, and that's on an oil bypass valve that's in there. if you don't have this deflector shield in your oil pan, you need to spend the $7 or $8 to buy one and install it. What happened was there was a technical service bulletin that came out that recommended installing these on these engines, and what it does is it prevents, when that bypass valve is activated, it prevents the oil from shooting straight up into the engine and causing an oil burning condition. So yeah, I'll put a link in the comments for where you can get one. I apologize, my kids are jumping on a trampoline behind here, but I've got my new O-ring. I'm gonna go ahead and just take a dab of oil, spread it all around this, lube it up real good. And once it's nice and lubricated, we're just going to fit it right on the end of this pickup tube. And somehow I got a piece of dirt on there. We don't want that. That's better. As far as putting on the new gasket, I like to put some RTV silicone, at least in all four corners. It's less about making an actual bead that's going to keep oil out and more about having something that will hold this gasket in place as you raise it up and get it where you want it to be. Now, when you do go to install it, all of these bolts need to be torqued to 18 foot-pounds, and then these two long jobs here, they're 106 inch-pounds. And if you only have an inch-pound, or if you only have a foot-pound torque wrench, you just want to multiply or divide that by 12, just like you would to get the difference between inches and feet in length. I'm not aware of any specific sequence for how you're supposed to torque these back in, but just as a general rule, normally on an oil pan you start in the center and then tighten everything up outwards and kind of rotating back and forth and sides and things like that. Now what I'm going to do is get everything just kind of snugged up with a regular wrench. Start from the center, move back and forth on my way out, and then once everything's snugged up, I'll come back with that torque wrench and get everything torqued to spec. From here, it's just putting it back together the way you took it apart. If this video helped you, would you mind helping me by clicking that subscribe button? I appreciate you.